go ahead and get started. Welcome from Chicagoland, Mr. Dorfman.
Thank you, thank you.
And welcome to everybody for Value Engineering the Power Grid. It's great that you guys are here, and it's a very specific project here that we're working on, and a presentation. We have Josh Dorfman. He is the COO of American Wire Group out there in Chicago.
How do you do?
And I'm Dave Lowe, I'm the GovBrief host. We want to welcome everybody that's here in the federal space. We always love to do these, and this is actually a combination of going out to the federal space as well as folks that are working in the federal space doing the projects as installers. So we want to invite both of you and all of you here today. So real quick, we'll give you an overview of the briefing controls. We'll talk about some of the initiatives and regulations that are coming down on folks' heads in the government, and see how we can work together to deal with the agency issues, as well as being able to look at best practices for especially the wiring and cabling side of things, because that's what you are an expert of, Mr. Dorfman.
That's right.
So we'll get to those real quick. A disclaimer: this is not endorsed by GSA or any other agency. It is provided to you for informational purposes only, and all participation for the government folks that are here so we can dialogue. Is not an endorsement or commitment to purchase from anybody, including you, Josh.
But they are certainly welcome to.
But they are certainly welcome to.
So.
Exactly. So we will. So tell us why you're here today, because we want to know. Do you work with contracts that include power infrastructure? Are you an engineer? You drive those trains of power infrastructure. Are you do you provide power infrastructure installation, or do you have a power grid modernization requirement, or your boss may become? Somebody has got to choose. Your boss may become. So we'll leave this open for a couple of seconds, and then we'll get moving. We got a lot to cover today, so go ahead and vote. It is painless, and it helps us to understand what it is that you guys are up against. Nobody's choosing. My boss may become. That's funny. That's a funny thing.
Everybody wants to be here. That's great news.
All right. So we're going to give you another 5, 4, 3, 2. I promise it's painless. 1, 0. Come on. One more. We can do it. I know you can. I know you can. All right. This is an even number. This is wild. Whoops. Let me close this out. And boom. Let's get you here, and we'll show you what it is. I work with a lot of folks work with contracts. Love it, love it. 30% provide power infrastructure installation. I know that's a terrible thing for you, Mr. Dorfman, since that's the kind of people that you work with all the time. We're glad that you guys decided to be here. Real quick, couple things if you to make this briefing work. If you haven't been on an online meeting, you've been living under a rock in the past 3 months, but you can grab that little bar thing, could be on the top, the bottom, the side. You can make us bigger or smaller, make us disappear. If you like death by PowerPoint, you can open up that panel on the right-hand side. There are 4 handouts for you that include executive orders, 2 of them, as well as DoD installation energy resilience presentation and AWG line card, so you can see what Josh does. You can also raise your hand or chat questions to us throughout this if you have any information that you'd like us to share. And if you called in on the phone, make sure that you put your audio pin. That's a longer pin now, I think, but you put that in and hit that number so we can unmute you. And you can also communicate with us directly at govsupport@buyawg.com. That'll be available throughout the presentation. And with that, we got poll number 2, which includes, what are you involved in? Do you specify grid infrastructure requirements? Are you involved in emergency? And that's an interesting thing. Emergency restoration and recovery for power, as well as being involved in procurement of power products and services, or other. You can pick other as well. The reason why it's important for an emergency is because of what you do, and we'll talk about this very briefly, but you have a BPA with Army Corps of Engineers for that type of thing, for emergency, right?
Yes, sir. And this question will help guide us through the rest of the discussion today, whether we want to focus on specifying emergency and restoration services, or procurement for projects.
There you go. And I think we're going to know the answer to that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and oh, look at that, got a last minute voter. Here we go. And look at that. Emergency restoration and recovery for power.
Okay.
Is the number one, other than other. So we know that there's a lot of other people out there.
That's right. So all you guys who voted other, email in your questions.
That's right. So tell us a little bit about AWG, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes there.
Great. Thanks, Dave. So American Wire Group is a three-generation family business, and we have, myself included, we are experts in transmission and distribution wire and cable products, as well as accessories, pole line hardware. Then our voltage range basically is anywhere from 3,000 volts, 300 volts, up to 500 kV for both overhead and underground applications. We manufacture and distribute our products all around the United States and around the world. So our customers who work in our borders and outside, we're able to support wherever they go. Our products are made in the USA, India, South Korea, Mexico, all around the world. And as our clients require the BAA, TAA, or FTA compliance, that is certainly something that we are capable to support. Our technical team spans over 200 years of expertise in the power grid infrastructure and cable accessory business, and with specific focus on transmission, distribution, substation, microgrid, extra high voltage, and renewable energy. We're probably one of the leading suppliers of wire and cable products for wind and solar, as well as battery energy storage. And we're continually developing new products for those segments to help our clients lower their cost, improve their execution, and deliver value ultimately to their customers. And most of our clients who buy from us directly would be the EPC firms or design builds, a lot of the federal agencies like U.S. Army Corps, as you mentioned before, as well as FEMA for emergency services, and the electric utilities throughout the country, all 3,500 that span from the east to west. As well as specialists in emergency services, we're probably the fastest reacting company in the United States in the aftermath of emergency. We also manage our own logistics, so that means with any truck that dispatches from our facilities, we know exactly where it is at any time, and we control that last mile to make sure that what we promise to occur happens. As well as, we're, as we said, privately held, and appreciate your lead in on our BPA with Puerto Rico. That was in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. We were tapped by the U.S. Army Corps to support their wire and cable requirements, which then, after our execution successfully with first supply expanded to not only cable, but also all of the accessories required to bring first the recovery and then the restoration.
And that's what happens. You do one thing well, and then they start tapping you for other things, and that is a beautiful thing. And so we also have energy resilience as a topic of discussion. You'll find that in the executive orders that are attached, but you can see efficient operations, dealing with cybersecurity, critical infrastructure, and then infrastructure protection. All these pieces apply to the modernization and performance. GAO released this performance challenges by GSA, maximizing the performance and outcome-oriented performance measures. Keyword performance, and we're going to be talking a lot about that, especially as it deals with the initiatives for dealing with prolonged power outages, and you can see here managing the consequences, and then gaps or shortcomings in assets or capabilities. All this dovetails into what happens in emergencies, as well as just age, right? You have age, and then you have new products coming online, and you want to make sure that you are installing the new and improved, as opposed to just dealing with the same thing. And I know we can talk about the Puerto Rico situation because there's some issues with that, not because of you, but we will talk about what is your biggest challenge in power grid modernization. Is it an understanding modern cable technology, supply chain, for standard products versus customization, or something else? Please contact me. You can let us know which one of those makes the most sense for you. We will be talking a lot about the wire infrastructure. But the supply chain also applies here too, right, Josh? Because you mentioned this, the last mile often is the most difficult mile other than the fact that you just can't get the product at all.
That's right. You know, in addition to be able to inventory the product and supply that product, you have to be able to actually get it there. So, you know, supply chain includes logistics as well as inventory management and product excellence.
Love it. Another 3, 2, 1, and boom. So here's where everybody stands on that. Supply chain is the biggest issue of the day. Love it, because I think you do have a little bit of experience in the supply chain, as you just mentioned. And I will talk about this. We have consistent issues throughout the agencies as we talk with folks, and you know that we talk with folks all the time in the agencies. Grid independence is one issue. Availability of materials, including that supply chain issue, obviously part of that. But as you're modernizing, we're going to talk about specifically modernizing, and then we'll dovetail into that emergency response for the folks that are dealing with emergency response. And we always want to be cost effective and cost efficient, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about this power grid, and I am going to shut up and listen because you are the man when it comes to knowing all of the ins and outs of how this stuff works. So go ahead and tell us what you see from your perspective on the power grid and value engineering.
Great. Thanks, Dave. So when we refer to the power grid, what we're talking about is all of the infrastructure grade power network across, you know, the United States or even outside of our country. And that would include really the overhead or underground power lines for transmission, the interconnection to the substations where we're breaking down voltages, to the distribution networks, both primary and secondary, as it relates to the local developments or commercial and industrial applications. So where the, I guess the power grid infrastructure world ends is at that service meter into your house. But we also do carry a full range of those products as well. But for the scope of this discussion, we're gonna focus on power grid really with anything, like as we said before, we'll say 600 volts and above. And so that really talks about the underground primary distribution, underground secondary and overhead secondary distribution, as well as, you know, classic transmission and distribution conductors like ACSR, AAC, AAAC. There's some innovation in that category as well. And then along with all of the conductor requirements for the bare and insulated overhead and underground, there's also the requirements for the pole line hardware, like your insulators, cross arms, arresters, transformers, and so forth, to make sure that after you buy the wire, you can actually string it, hang it up, and put it in the ground.
Super. And there's a whole bunch of choices here once you start looking at things.
Yeah, and this is really the cornerstone of why that supply chain question, I think, interests so many folks today, as well as emergency restoration, because if you look across the different options that are available for making wire and cable selection choices to achieve whether it's a mechanical strength or an electrical ampacity requirement, there's roughly 31,000 combinations. So basically what you're trying to do is find that needle in a haystack for something that could be cost effective, on the shelf, not custom, and available in case that there is a emergency restoration requirement. So really the point is that and the message that I hope to get across today is that we want my company, American Wire Group, to be a resource that you can reach, you know, as Dave said, govsupport@buyawg.com, visiting us on our website at buyawg.com, or calling us to speak with any of our engineering team that will help guide my customers in that category.
And how much does it cost to talk to your engineers?
As much as it costs to make a call on your cell phone, it's free. Pick up the phone and dial.
My favorite four-letter word, free. Love it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about value engineering, because that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Let's get that clarified.
So you know, did a little bit of research, and an interesting definition of from Investopedia was really understanding value engineering as substituting your materials without sacrificing functionality. And I would say that value engineering shouldn't be limiting yourself to sacrificing, but actually giving yourself the opportunity to improve. Because if you're in the position where you can value engineer, you should be looking forward without having to make design choices that could be limiting what your options are. And so we really like to think that value engineering is really improving your functionality as well as improving and maintaining your cost and availability. And with those kind of two pillars, we'll drive this discussion as understanding our specifications, being modern versus legacy designs, as well as interchangeability and availability, which I know is really important to the folks understanding about emergency restoration. Modern versus legacy, here we go. So this is a great example. One that is also very near and dear to my heart. So on the underground primary distribution cable, which would operate from roughly 5 kV to 46 kV, and more commonly across the United States, 15 kV to 35 kV, there are two classes of insulation that you'll probably recognize in the marketplace, being the orange material, which is called EPR, and the white material, which is called TRXLPE. EPR has been used more commonly by electric utility installers because it's a little bit more flexible. But as a power grid distribution item, it has a very high dielectric loss. So that means you're losing more of your power as heat than you are in transmitting it or distributing it across your conductor. Historically, a lot of the reason that clients have been driven towards the EPR requirement has been because the operating conductor temperature can reach 105 degrees, where historically TRXLPE, being the white compound listed, has not been 105 rated. It is now, over the past number of years, 105 degree rated. So if you're trying to carry voltage across your network and you want something that's a modern design and actually a bit more cost competitive as well, we inventory the aluminum conductor that's 105 degree rated with that TRXLPE insulation, and it's fully interchangeable in the application. So you'll have a more modern cable with better dielectric loss. And this is a great slide. It was from a Dow presentation showing that the dielectric loss of different insulation materials, being TRXLPE versus EPR, is almost 6 times in difference. And I think that's an important understanding, because if you're building a distribution network, whether it's for a power system like a wind farm or a solar plant, or you're building a distribution network for utility, you really want to make sure that you can maximize minimize the dielectric loss and maximize the use of your product. So that brings us to the next point, which is about interchangeability and availability. And I'd like to look at this discussion first by showing a picture of my warehouse recently, and to say that, when we are providing recommendations, it comes from a place of understanding what the product application is, who's going to be using it, and how fast we can get it to the client, especially in those cases of emergency. And so with that being said, when my clients come to ask us for recommendations, it's to maximize that availability of material on hand and make sure that the delivery of those products is as fast as possible. So here's a great example. In a lot of the wire and cable products have code names. So if you're looking for a bare conductor that's a ACSR, you'll hear words that are birds: drake, oriole, pigeon. And if my friends who are engineers will say, how did they ever come up with such crazy names? And it's really it's really because it's a lot easier to say, I'm looking for, as an example here on the screen, we have a service drop cable. It's a lot easier to say I'm looking for purpura versus I'm looking for a 1/0 insulated aluminum with 60 mils of XLP, 19-stranded conductor with a 1/0 7-strand AAC neutral messenger. And by that point, my mouth was getting dry by trying to say that already. So really the point is that the Aluminum Association, who defined these standards, wanted to make it easier and more user-friendly. And in the case of the story here about resilience and emergency response, in a couple slides, there'll be two little case studies, but really the point is that our client called us and said they were looking for purpura, which roughly gives them 200 amps of service across that 3-phase conductor. And we said, look, we have purpura in stock, but if you need more of it, we also have neratina. And as it turns out, the neratina is probably the more common item in the industry. And after working with the engineers of the utility, we were able to demonstrate that the product is available, nearby, can fit the application, gives the clients the reliability and the service that they need, and ultimately was approved and put into service. And so, just by asking that next question my staff and our team is able to really demonstrate that technical leadership and help our clients solve their problems. So here's just kind of 2 case studies. I kind of won't bore everybody by reading the details. So you can always come back and watch the video and press pause again in the future. But really, the point is in the aftermath of storms, which really are the primary driver for replacement of wire and cable, our team remains on staff and vigilant 24/7 in order to make sure that we're able to bring solutions to the market. And similar to the point that I just mentioned, that we were able to provide alternates that were in stock that met the same function, and worked with the engineering team on our clients' utilities, and we're able to provide them with solutions. So really the conclusion at the bottom is where availability and interchangeability brings resilience, also has a lot of strength when our technical expertise is really brought to light and driven by our customers' understanding. So really, what does that mean? It means for the folks on the phone and participating in the webinar, we want you guys to contact us and feel free to ask questions and engage us so that we can help you, especially during the emergency response and times, as well as project design. Because like in the case we were discussing before about that underground primary distribution cable, right? If there's an opportunity for you to value engineer by using more modern materials to achieve a lower cost and better execution, that is what this whole program is about. As well as using that same reliability and trust in order to value engineer the pole line hardware and accessories packages as well. So we really come together as a full solution for our clients in terms of the whole power grid requirement, from the cable, accessories, technical support, as well as availability of material and competitive prices.
Well, that's awesome. And we are going to ask this poll of when you expect a power requirement, wiring requirement. And what we're looking at, if you're in the government, fiscal year Q4 is next week. So immediately call me now or call me later. But a lot of folks are looking at fiscal year 2021. But yeah, if you have any issues with any of this, we're going to leave this open for a minute. But as we're looking at, we're going to open up to questions for folks, and I do have a couple of questions, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But let us know where you guys stand, and if you're in the installation business, let us know if you have projects that fits in the same category. Now, fiscal year for you that aren't familiar with the federal government, I think most of you are familiar with the federal government, is through September 30th is the last day for fiscal year 2020, and then we start 2021 on October 1st. So there we go. And so we'll make sure that we get the information out to you that you need. And Josh, we will get to some questions. Will the presentation be available? Yes, we will make the presentation available. In fact, you will get a copy of that. We'll talk about that in a minute, of exactly what you'll get. But you get the presentation. And
there's also great.
What's that?
Sorry. There's also great resources on our website at buyawg.com. Mm-hmm. There's our full catalog, as well as some resources about installation and handling, and any other further technical information is available, through sending us an email or through the request on the website as well, or calling, of course.
Yep. So we'll give you another 5, 4, 3. You can do it. 2, 1, and there's another even one. Very strange. But anyway, right. We got 2020, 2021. We got folks to follow up with right after this. I'm certain that we'll be able to get you guys going. All right, so open that panel on the right-hand side and see. You can open that panel. You can raise your hand if you'd like to dialogue, because guess what? We can incorporate you right into this. That's why we love this kind of platform, so we can dialogue. So let us know if you prefer to chat. You can chat it out, and we will do that. All right. Do you do installation, Mr. Dorfman?
We do not do installation. We supply the materials and provide technical expertise, but we lead it to our trade partners, who are the experts in the installation and handling the labor to perform that work.
How do you determine lead time for products?
Well, a lot of the products that we have are commercially available within our distribution centers. We've got about $25 million between two major distribution facilities in California and Pennsylvania. That's supported by 10 regional hub and spoke model that we have. Outside of that, our lead times are roughly 8 to 10 weeks delivered to your project site.
Very, very good. Norman Russell, hold on one sec. Let me get you unmuted here. Norman, are you there?
Trying to be.
Ah, there you go. So who are you with, Mr. Russell?
So you don't do installation, but do you do turnkey projects?
Yes, we can help with the on the EHV segment to provide a turnkey solution as for 46 kV and above applications for underground installation.
Did that answer your question, Norman?
That's it.
All right. What do you do, Norman? You gone? All right. I guess that was all Norman had to say. All right. Any other questions? You can ask them now. Is a good time to ask. You can always ask them later if you need to. You can send them to govsupport@byawg or support@govbrief.us. Both of those we will make sure get to you, Mr. Dorfman. Either way you look at it, it will get to you. Anybody else have any questions for Josh Dorfman? Hang on a second. Let me make sure. Scroll through these. You're welcome. Glad that you enjoyed it.
You know, I would also like to say to the folks on the phone that we do sell direct, so that if you're looking to procure those materials, in order to kind of get the process started, there's a credit application on our website that will help guide you through the account setup process. You can also call in or email to Gov Support, and our staff will help you with that process. So,
super. And do you have a GSA contract? I do not think you have one yet.
No, we do not have one yet, but we do have the BPA with the U.S. Army Corps.
Your Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah. And so I think on the last slide, Dave will show our cage code, DUNS number, and things like that as well.
We will do that. And in fact, you can use the numbers from the BPA as valid numbers, by the way, if you're in contracting. So, all right, very good. Well, if you have any more questions, just raise your hand or open that panel and we will get to you. If you are doing anything for value engineering the power grid, keeping you out of hot water, leverage the industry experts like Josh. And how much does it cost, Josh, to give you a call?
There's no charge.
Zero. Follow the best practices. There's a bunch of those. If you're interested in DOE and DOD, both will be part of your follow-up. Embrace the flexibility. And what we mean is, hey, listen to what is available through Josh. All you have to do is they'll tie the thing together and they'll help you standardize the specifications as well as modernize during emergencies. We saw some of that not happening in Puerto Rico. I was just talking to someone else which we're doing a briefing for, who does translation services in Puerto Rico, and he was involved in the whole situation there. And a lot of the modernization really didn't happen the way that it could have if they were consulting you. I know you were supplying them, but they weren't consulting you. Just saying. And meeting executive orders, initiatives. And one other thing is dealing with validating that BAA and TAA compliance. Can they rely on you for that, Josh?
Absolutely.
That was a softball question, also known.
Glad I knocked it out.
Yeah. So there you go. And you mentioned this, Mr. Dorfman, that there are procurement options for you, American Wire Group. You are a small business, correcto?
Correcto.
That's right. And there's the DUNS, the cage code, as well as the Army Corps BPA. If you have any questions about the Army Corps BPA and whether or not you can use that, I'll bet you Josh can connect you with the contracting officer that's responsible for that BPA. I'll bet you can.
Very easily.
And then if you need any other socioeconomic parts for your partners for the contract, we do see that on a regular basis as we're talking with people on a regular basis. They can either work with somebody that you know, if you happen to be service disabled, 8A, hub zone, woman-owned small businesses, you love to work with those guys because they're going to be doing the installation anyway, right?
That's right.
That's right. And if you need any help with that, they can help. We also know, folks, you have partners that you can supply if they need that as a socioeconomic set aside.
Right.
And we mentioned this earlier, is that you will get a recap email. It'll be next week, Tuesday, I think is the target to get that out, which will include the briefing presentation, supporting documentation, AWG capabilities, as well as your line card, and a link to the video so you can watch it over and over and over again and submit it to the Academy Awards, of course. So we do want to thank you guys for joining us today. Josh, always a pleasure seeing
Thank you so much, Dave. Thanks to everybody for joining today.
I cannot imagine the level of expertise that you have in this world, because it's way over my head to deal with 30,000 plus products to try to figure it out.
Well, we do what we can. We've got an amazing technical support team, and we're always here, happy to educate our clients and give them what we believe is our best practice, and offer that consultative process in order to help our clients achieve their goals.
That's exactly right. And do you do international? There's a question. Last question, it looks like.
Yep, we can. We've delivered to every continent in the world, so. Happy to follow our customers wherever they go. We've done infrastructure, transmission, distribution, solar, wind, and utility projects globally.
That is fantastic. So if you need to reach out to Josh, there's his information right there. You can reach out directly to him. If you need anything from GovBrief, feel free to reach out to us. We will do our best to answer any questions that we can. If we can't, we throw it over to the experts like Josh, and he will be able to help you out to get to where you want to go. Is there any other things you want to say before we let everybody get out of here?
Just appreciate everybody's time. On the line card that Dave referenced before, it'll show all of the wire and cable products as well as the hardware and accessories. But if you don't see it on there, doesn't mean that we don't offer it. So give us a shout. We're happy to help. Excellent.
We always appreciate that. Thank you so much, Josh. Always great to get good expertise from folks that are in worlds that I just cannot. I just love the fact that folks like you have access. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We will see you next time. Josh, again, stay safe up there in Chicagoland.
Take care. Thanks, Dave.
Right, you too. See you.